Welcome to the Side Hustle to Small Business podcast powered by Hiscox. I'm your host, Sanjay Parekh. Throughout my career, I've had side hustles, some of which have turned into real businesses. But first and foremost, I'm a serial technology entrepreneur. In the creator space, we hear plenty of advice on how to hustle harder and why you can sleep when you're dead. On this show, we ask new questions in hopes of getting new answers. Questions like, how can small businesses work smarter? How do you achieve balance between work and family? How can we redefine success in our businesses so that we don't burn out after year 3? Every week, I sit down with business founders at various stages of their side hustle to small business journey. These entrepreneurs are pushing the envelope while keeping their values. Keep listening for conversation, context, and camaraderie. Today's guest is the founder of The Donut Trap, a donut, ice cream, and coffee shop in St. Paul, Minnesota. The Donut Trap has also expanded into vending machines. Bradley Taylor's mission is to empower Black youth and people of color to enter entrepreneurship. Bradley, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you, Sanjay.
So I'm excited to have you on because, man, there's so much fun stuff in the business that you started. But before we get there, give us a little bit about your background and what got you to where you are today.
Yeah. So I've always been had this entrepreneur bug in me, from the time I was like, 10, 11, you just kind of levels to it. You sell the candy. And then from there, I had my own little t-shirt line in high school. And then, college hit and stuff like that. And along that way, just started little businesses here and there, nothing crazy. But then really what happened, my love for donuts and not having access like I had back in LA and Minnesota really got the best of me.
I love it. Let's think back though. What was the very first thing that you started as like a side hustle or some kind of hustle to, that entrepreneurial bug? Can you remember what that was?
Ooh, I started
as a kid.
Yeah. I remember I started a Pokemon tournament in my garage and that was cool. It was like maybe $3 or $4 to enter, and then like a little pot, like winning pot for I think it was like maybe $10 or something. But if you get 20 dudes to come through, it's like, hey, like that's awesome.
Yeah, you made money. You didn't rig the game or anything, right? So that you won the pot.
I was probably one of the worst, actually. That's the funny part. I was not good at Pokemon. I just was like, whatever. But I was able to organize. I think that was the thing.
There you go. The seeds of organizing right there. Yeah, so were you like the first entrepreneur in the family or have there been other entrepreneurs in the family?
Yeah. So my granddaddy, he started a construction company called Taylor Made. And basically he really helped build and shape a lot of Watts, California, what we see today in neighborhoods in there. And then, throughout that, like my uncle, I have 12 uncles and aunties. And so we had a huge family. Yeah. So my mom was the youngest and she really instilled that entrepreneurship drive in me. I saw her get her real estate license to invest in real estate, do construction like her dad, and a couple of other things here and there. So it was really cool to just have a front row seat and see that in lifetime. Yeah.
Did you ever get a chance to work in any of those businesses?
I really wish I did, not under my grandpa specifically, but under my mom for sure. Was like under her construction businesses and stuff like that, I was definitely able to help.
Yeah. Any lessons that you learned in that experience that you've kind of carried forward to yourself?
Yeah, really just start. And I think really, it's not real until you at least fail, in a way. So that really it's like, dude, who cares? Just print out like your business plan sometimes as it goes, depending on the business.
Right. Yeah. I think that's one thing that holds back a lot of people because they're so worried that, what are people going to think and everything. Honestly, most people don't even think about you.
No.
So just do it. And, then if it's successful, then they might think about you.
Oh, yeah.
But right now they're not thinking about you. So,
exactly. We got too much going on.
Exactly. So talk to me a little bit about the business, this donut idea. You didn't have access to good donuts or any donuts. How did you get started, going from nothing into being a donut maker?
Yeah. So I was fresh from coming back from spring break in LA and I was like, dude, there's I can't take any more of this. It's my senior year. I was like, I really need donuts, yo. So I just started looking on Etsy, Googling different recipes and started, kind of messing with those. And then one of my good friends, her homegirl, who's like, her grandma's from Arkansas or whatever, but which is really funny, we talked about that. She sent me a recipe, and I don't know if it was a donut recipe, but it was some type of raised, like kind of yeast recipe. And I started messing with it, and they started looking like donuts. They started tasting more and more like donuts. And once I got comfortable with it, I was like, my thing is every Sunday, I'm going to make a dozen donuts for myself. That's it. I don't care how hungover I am. I don't care. And it was like really funny because, in college, you go over a friend's house, you don't expect home dude to just be making fresh donuts,
Right.
So naturally that word just spread. And from there, people who I didn't know started ordering them and inquiring about them. And as it started happening, I was like, dude, like, I don't know if I'm making money or not, because after we graduated, those same people, we all got real jobs, started ordering donuts for the offices and stuff like that. So it was like that natural role of that. But what I did was I got a mentor. There's a dude down the street who had a couple of food trucks, and I was like, he looks like he might know what he's doing. So I was like, hey, I got this donut thing and people are just coming and pick up little donuts out of my apartment. How do we help me? So I just interned for him, doing all the grunt work, of restaurants and stuff like that. And he was just giving me these gems. But then when it really happened was when I started doing pop-up shops in the local college town within non-competing businesses. And, I'll be like, hey, there's a print shop, whatever. Here, I'll give you $100, whatever. And like on Friday, we'll have a pop-up shop. People will come get donuts. And it just started going crazy from there.
So how long was it when you just started making donuts on your own, deciding like, look, every week I'm going to make a dozen, until it got to the point where somebody wanted to buy them from you?
It happened fairly quick. Like, I'm not going to lie, probably like in at least like 3 or 4 months. It was like pretty wild. Yeah.
And that first order, how did that come about? Did you like go looking for it, or did somebody just come to you and say like, I want to buy these?
Someone just came. Actually, it was one of my friends. He was like, hey, my dad has a dealership and can you make like 4 dozen? And I was like, 4 dozen? Oh my gosh, And
I only make a dozen a week. What are you talking about?
You want me to make 4 times that amount already? So I just was like, okay, I can't let him down, and I just got to him, made it happen. I don't care.
Yeah. And, like in doing any of this, like even that first order, was there anything that made you nervous about embarking on this? And if so, how did you get over that for yourself?
Yeah, I think one, trying to make sure I had enough ingredients to fulfill it, and then 2, made sure that the product was consistent. I wanted all 4 dozens to look like each other, not like, one's burnt, one's like a different shade of color, one doesn't quite taste like. I wanted just consistency. So those 2 things, I think, were like the determining factors in that.
Yeah. As you've kind of moved forward, how have you made sure that exists? Like, we understand how like those big box, I don't know if you call them big box donut places, they do it because they've got like factories and they make sure everything's consistent. When you're a smaller shop like you, that's got to be a lot harder. So is there something that you've done to make sure that the Monday's donut is the same as Friday's donut?
Definitely. Really just putting a lot of emphasis on standard operating procedures, like it's like whoever is one who's mixing the batter or so, even if it's another person, those SOPs should be able to translate seamlessly through each person, regardless of what their skill set is.
Oh, that's interesting. So how early on did you figure that out, that you needed to have these standard operating procedures for each job? Yeah.
So really, I would say it started with my mentor. All chefs are low key crazy, intense and crazy. That's not a joke. And what he instilled with me was efficiency, and be able to replicate each thing like just seamlessly. And it happened when I had like a huge thing of onions that I had to cut, like a huge bag just spread across like the kitchen island. And he walked past and then he looked at me, stopped, and then kept going. And then he came back and he started yelling at me. And I was like, what's going on, bro? I'm cutting the onions and you're not paying me. So what's wrong? But he was like, dude, look at this onion. You have like, let's say 400 or 500 in this bag. If you're taking 30 seconds to do it like that, like multiply that, you know? He was like, here's how you cut an onion. Cut once this way, cut twice that way, cut across, go down. Replicate that across all these onions, you know? And I was like, oh, okay. I get it now, you know? So that was the first installation that really just like exposed me to be like, okay, process.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Okay, so you started out baking these at home.
Mhm.
When did you get to the point of being like, okay, now I need to open up a place? And how did that happen for you?
It happened when I think we started to notice that we're just hitting our ceiling with the pop-up shops. You know, every Friday it was like lines all the time. But I'm like, how can we get bigger? How can we reach more people? Like, I feel like we're just kind of just at the point of saturation here, you know? And there's a building that was like abandoned, like throughout, not abandoned, but vacant for most of my school year. And it had a leasing sign up for forever. And I was like, it was right in a college town, dinky town. I was like, that would be a dope place. And all I did was send a cold email to home dude. I was like, hey, my name is Bradley. This is the name of the donut place. We're called Suit Nuts back then. And I just attached a whole bunch of press and stuff that we got. And I just sent it to him. And then like a couple of days later, he was like, let's talk.
Nice. And then, okay, so you got the space, you did a build out. Who knows? Do you remember how long that took? Took a while.
Whatever the build out was, because I just graduated college. My partner, Ashley, she was still in college and we had a kid too as well. So we just, with all that going on, basically we're just like, hey, we're still in college. We are our market who we're targeting. So we just made it as super homey as possible, went on Facebook Marketplace, whatever, and just got beanbag chairs and an N64 and a good sound system. I think we spent the most money on the sound system. And like, that was it. And people were like, they loved it.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I kind of love that, right? Like create a place where people want to hang out because inevitably they're going to keep smelling the donuts. They're going to eat more donuts, right? So it's a nice little insidious marketing thing that you had going on there. Okay, so you start this up, and then you know, at some point I saw in the background you had a vending machine.
Yes.
And the vending machine is pretty awesome. I also didn't know that you could get customized vending machines. So talk us through like your thought process of that and how that all came about.
Yeah. So it started actually when we first had our first storefront. And I remember back in high school, my friend went to go visit family in Japan. And he came back and he was like, dude, I was buying so much random stuff in vending machines. It was crazy. And when I had my t-shirt line, he was like, you should definitely try it. And that notion always just stuck in my head. But when this whole concept of donuts started coming through, I was like, dude, it would be so cool to do this in a vending machine, you know? And like, instead of having it'll be so easy. But the whole storefront took a lot of our time. And then COVID came, really. And I was able to sit down, as most of us were, and just really just like kind of reflect on things. And I was like, well, we can't do another storefront. Food trucks down. Like, we can't do that. What about that vending machine concept? And so I was like, that sounds cool. So the first thing I did was really just start Googling like what vending machine sellers, you know, and talked to one dude. I was like, I want to sell like donuts out of a vending machine. He was like, no, we only do like Coca-Cola and chips and that's it. I don't know what you're talking about. And I was like, okay, for sure. And I was like, any recommendations for a person who's capable of doing something? And he was like, I don't know, maybe talk to this guy. And I was just being like passed along to these different dudes. And throughout that time, I was just picking up the terminology and what kind of shaping what this vending machine would look like, you know, how I wanted to feel, how people wanted to interact with it, and how I want the vending process to look. And to address just certain stuff with our product until I met the Grandmaster. And I was like, with all the past terminology and stuff, we're able to just skip that line and go straight to like real good talks. And he was like, all right, I can make this happen. And I was like, really? And I was like, yeah. So for like 4 or 5 months, we just sat designing. I'll come up with a concept, be like, hey, I don't want my thing to fall on the floor. That's disgusting. It's a premium product. What would it look like if we rolled it out and an elevator came and picked it up and put it in your hands, and just stuff like that,
right.
Nuances, and yeah.
So I got to ask you, like, first of all, I didn't know that you could even do this, like get somebody to build a custom vending machine for you.
Yes.
Because I think we've all seen kind of the standard ones, right? For the drinks and the little corkscrew thing for the chips and the whole thing, right? Like, this is so different. What does it cost to make a vending machine like this?
Yeah. So all in for us, and this before we actually outsourced it to China, just because they had way better technology. But for us, it was about maybe 20,000, I want to say, for that one vending machine.
Okay. Yeah. And how long did it take you then to make the money back on that first vending machine for the sales of it?
So we put in a great location. Our first location couldn't have been any better. I would say probably within maybe a year and a half or two that we were able to like just recoup our money fully on that, like for sure.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And I imagine this machine was more than just the machine of the sales, because it was also advertising, I think, for you, right?
Yes,
like,
for sure.
How much of that really played into doing this versus not doing it?
Yeah, it played a lot. I look at them as like our own little billboards in a way,
Right.
Like, and also depending on what you want to do, you can also like advertise other people's stuff that are brands that make sense, depending on like, the touchscreen and stuff like that, or if you want to play videos and stuff in between, when no one's using it and stuff like that. So there's like little ancillary opportunities for that, but really just plastering all our stuff all over the place, from the boxes and everything.
How did you deal with, because I gotta imagine like there'd be some donuts that just don't go sold, right?
Yeah.
And donuts are a very perishable item.
Yes.
And so what did you do? How did you deal with that? Was that like those just get thrown away at the end of the day, or like what happens every day? They got all refreshed?
Yeah. So one approach to that was really the data, and the data is really like the freeway of how we influences like the system and how many donuts we make of that flavor at the time of the day and so forth, so that we can leverage that to like not have as much waste. And we got really good at that, but we still have our waste. But what's cool is we also donate a lot of those, and then too, we'll also pre-package up, like box up, let's say like 6 or so, and just sell them at a heavenly discount at our bakery studio.
Yeah, I kind of love that. So is the vending machine something that gets replenished once a day? Is it multiple times a day? How does that work for you?
It's about every other day, I want to say, is how we do it. Yeah, because the shelf life on the donuts they're 3 days, but we hard cap them at 2, because like 3, they're still good, but someone who's like really familiar with them, you're like, I already know when it's going over the hill,
Right.
So 2 is our hard cap.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on. The name too for me is super fascinating, and it's very enticing. It's good branding, I think, too. The Donut Trap. How did you come up with that name?
Yeah.
And kind of what's the history behind it?
Yeah. So I cannot take credit for that. I 100% give that to my partner, amazing mother, Ashley, who was like, because when we were in college, it was like Soup Nuts, and it just came out of nowhere, and I was so sick of having to walk people through how to spell it, and stuff like that. And then once we moved out of college, like my partner Ashley was like, all right, we need to grow up now. Let's think of something that people can pronounce, and stuff. So she came up with the Donut Trap, and it worked really well because it has 2 kind of meanings to it. One, front facing side is like, oh, sure, you trapped me with donuts, all that stuff, whatever. But then the back end side, I would say on a more culturally relevant side, is like trapping, like, because it started out of my apartment, and anyone that associates trapping, will know. So and I liked it, and it worked perfectly.
Yeah, I mean, to me, instantly, it reminded me of trap house music. And
exactly, you're from Atlanta, you already know.
From Atlanta, so that's a thing here. TI, there's the Trap House Museum,
exactly,
the whole thing. So,
I love it.
Yeah. So it's super interesting. I love those connections,
Yes.
kind of background wise. Okay, let's talk about kind of your kind of broader mission, and I
Yes.
teased this at the front end.
Yes.
How like your kind of mission is to empower others to go into entrepreneurship. Why is that something that you care about, and what have you done around that? Using donuts as kind
Yeah.
of the currency of that.
Yeah. So I think I care so much about it because, as people of color, we're really just so behind the eight ball, and I just want to, entrepreneurship is probably like one of the most empowering things ever, something that you just created from your like bare hands and an idea, and stuff like that. So being able to instill that into and help bring that potential out of others is like the greatest feeling for me. And then with our, because we just built a new headquarters and distribution place where it's also our retail as well. So what we do is we leverage that to actually come in, bring, kids of color in of all ages and really expose them to the nuances of what it's like really running a business, and all the skill sets that go into it, from like finance to manufacturing, baking, marketing, like community involvement, all that stuff. So they're able to really see it like in real time. And especially, I think it's so important for them to be exposed to that of a small business, because you can really see the rawness of it versus working for a corporation, or something like that, where it's like you can't really directly see the results of your or the impact of your decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's talk a little bit about just kind of your day-to-day life and all that stuff. Like this is one of those things that I feel like is really hard to get away from when you're not at work, technically, right? Like, so how do you build those boundaries for, because like you see this all the time, right? Like you see yummy stuff out there, or people will ask you about it once you get well known, like how do you build those kind of boundaries for yourself?
Yeah. So I think in terms of like at work, really just hiring a manager she's been with me forever. So really her being the first point of contact, where it's like, hey, if you have anything that is little, like, should I go get more chocolate chips? It's like, well, are we out of chocolate chips? Then maybe you should go get some, like, and get more so you don't have to ask me a week later, and stuff like that. So those little things really help take a lot of my plate off. Take a lot off my plate, sorry.
Right.
And then really just like having time, deliberately, intentionally having times for like myself and for my family as well, and depending on what comes along, like if it's like someone had asked a question or comment on like our Instagram, I'm like, okay, sure, let me get back to them as soon as possible, because that shows that we're engaged, we have our finger on the pulse, and like we just love talking to our customers, and it'll only take me like 5 seconds to reply.
Right.
So just little things like that, have really helped me a lot and maintain my sanity.
So let's talk about that. Keeping your finger on the pulse.
Yes.
How do you come up with the flavor combinations and the names and like all that creative side?
Yeah.
Because after doing this for a while, you can feel like you're tapped out. But how do you keep yourself engaged in that?
Yeah. Really, just I think I'm a creative first, so that just naturally happens. Comes across. And really just pulling whatever influence I have, like that I'm experiencing that day. Like if there's something that I'm seeing trending that resonates in me, or something like that, because it always has to be organic, and like just be like, okay, there's this one like flavor that I've been thinking of. Like I want to do something with chocolate. I want to do something spicy with it. Let me take that and bring it together, and then like just kind of make this atom smasher of a process, and just boom, there's a donut. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I love that atom smasher of a process.
Yeah,
I don't know that that's ever been mentioned in the same words as donuts, but I like it. That might actually be a good name for another donut that you make.
Hey, there you go.
Smasher. There you go. Let's talk a little bit about the community and kind of, obviously it sounds like the St. Paul community has embraced this very well.
Mm-hmm.
How has that been for you, and how is that relationship? Like, how have you built that? And how are you thinking about that as you potentially continue to expand and maybe, one day have places outside of St. Paul?
Yeah, it's been great, because I think it's like just having a place where people can like congregate together, I think is always like so important. It's like, let's put our phones down. Let's like engage and actually have good formal conversation. And then do a collaboration too within the community. So like even our news spot, like the people who did the art, they're from Frogtown, which is like a local neighborhood right in St. Paul. Like, and then from someone who's like, hey, like we want to do like this art event or something like that, or I see a local artist. I'm like, you know what? We have a huge patio. Can we get like 5 more of you guys and let's just like curate a really cool show? Or like there's local like performers in town. Like we just did a drag show of all local people within the community, and just giving a platform for people to really do so. And that looks different from what we're used to seeing, So it's,
Right.
Yeah, it's pretty chill.
Yeah, I like that. So I think that's a smart way of going because you're hitting different communities,
Yeah.
which obviously have different people. Like, was that, I mean, you're doing it obviously because you want to support the community, but was it from a business standpoint, was it intentional? Like, hey, I don't have access to these people. How do I get access to these people?
Yeah. Actually, it was completely organic. And it started when we had our first shop on campus because we're broke. We didn't have any money. Like, all I know was like, yo, we have a spot right off campus and we have these tools of Facebook and Instagram. Like
Right.
any college dude who wants to come in and who's doing half-ass doing something, let's collaborate. And that was it. I was like, wow, through collaborating, like it's really cool. We can touch these different people and really just create like a whole wave of something, and it didn't cost us anything. So
Yeah,
that's really it.
I love it. So what are the future plans for you and Donut Trap? Do you have like a vision of where this is going to go?
Yeah, I just really want to become a really household name in Minnesota, definitely get into other spaces that like might seem a little unorthodox, like our donut vending machine, and continue maybe scale that vertical in a way. But also just really make our place a really cool spot to just come and chill and get some great donuts, all that stuff. And really just like form relationships and experiences around. So like, I feel like once I have that, which we're on the way to doing, I'll be like, okay, cool.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
Thank you.
Okay, so you've been doing this for a while.
Yeah.
Thinking back now, like there's probably been a lot of challenges and now you've learned a lot of stuff that, now, because of the lessons that have happened in the past. If you could go back in time and do something differently, is there something that kind of stands out to you? And if so, what is that?
Yeah. I think one, make sure your business is good when it comes to leasing space. Like that's a real thing that not a lot of dudes talk about. And I think it's something that really should be paid attention to. So, I mean, Sanjay, you're into making startups and all that stuff, right? So say if me and you made a sneaker store, it's popping, right? And we took this little like vacant building of a place and we just made it the coolest place to be at. But then all of a sudden, now that it's hot, like Foot Locker decides to come in and wants to lease the whole building. And all that work and time we put into can easily be erased because like they decide to give, the landlord $1 million up front for whatever. And now we're back on the street. So I think that's the biggest thing I would do differently.
Yeah. Is there, like, thinking about those experiences, is there anything that you think you would have done differently to protect yourself from something like that happening?
Yeah, definitely. I think I would maybe paid attention to the lease more, and the structure of it. And, it was just like, oh, we get this spot. How much rent? I don't care. Like, we could do that.
Right.
It's fine. So maybe do that and maybe put in moats that would protect us more, or at least like would give us a bigger heads up, be able to assess things as we go into the next step of wherever we need to go, instead of just be like, yo, this happened. You got to be out in 2 months,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, it's good to pay attention to the details of those contracts that you're signing because things can get taken from you very easily.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Bradley, last question for you before we wrap up here. If you were talking to somebody who's thinking about doing the same thing as you, maybe not necessarily a donut shop, but launching a side hustle, turning that side hustle into a full-time business, what advice would you give to them?
Yeah. Really just start, take take the L's as much as possible, as fast as possible, because you don't really lose, you just learn. So it's just like, just get out there and really start doing it, because like, I don't think I ever met anyone who started something and has regressed to like worse than where they started out. So like, just the upside is always there, Like, how you get good at basketball? You start picking up a ball, you don't regress and can't, like it makes no sense.
Right. Like, well, I kind of love that. The L isn't a loss, it's a learn opportunity, right?
Yeah.
So that's what the L is. So go ahead and take it. Bradley, this has been fantastic. Super interesting. Where can our listeners find and connect with you, especially if they're in Minnesota?
Yeah, definitely on our Instagram. That's like my main point of contact. I run that personally. It's at the Donut Trap on Instagram. And just hit me up and I'll be happy to talk. Send me a DM.
Awesome. Thanks so much for being on today.
Of course, Sanjay. I appreciate you so much, dude.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Side Hustle to Small Business podcast powered by Hiscox. To learn more about how Hiscox can help protect your small business through intelligent insurance solutions, visit hiscox.com. That's HISCOX.com. And if you have a story you want to hear on this podcast, please visit hiscox.com/share your story. I'm your host, Sanjay Parikh. You can find out more about me at my website, sanjayparikh.com.